You're a fan of Glenn Beck or Rush Limbaugh? Try reading a few columns on the Huffington Post website. It may make your blood boil. Your mind may not be changed. But the practice of listening to opposing views is essential for effective citizenship.
Yes. Now, almost all of the top 100 news websites are CNN and other mainstream organs like the New York Times, Washington Post. And so for the tens of thousands of alternative sites that together in the aggregate are bigger than the top sites, you're now going to have their content and their propaganda all over your site. And the government, the FCC has now proposed this. They're going to set up the web server system, and then you've got to basically embed that on your site. Kind of like last year with the Cash for Clunkers program that horrified everyone when you dialed in to check it. A message said the federal government has now taken control, this is word for word, of your computer. It is now property of the U.S. government. Your files are being scanned. This is what Internet 2 is, where they shut off access to all of the real Internet and force you onto a couple thousand, in their own words, mainstream websites. So in the new Internet, they don't let the old Internet be repaired, all the grids. They phase it over to a new system they've already built the hubs for and the communication lines and the new addressing system. And then there will only be, they actually said, 100 universities and 100 corporations. 7 years ago, they proposed 50 corporations and 50 universities run by the government, controlled through their mandate. And then you will be allowed to have a sub-domain, like on YouTube or MySpace or Facebook. And then you have to sign and agree to their rules. And the New York Times and Time Magazine and Newsweek have all called for this as well. And so then, they can erase any Infowars.com material, any PrisonPlanet.com material. And so this is just a return to the fairness doctrine of the 60s, 70s, and early 80s that was found unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. I mean, you couldn't have a real talk show. Alex Jones or Rush Limbaugh or Tom Hartman, a mainline liberal in that paradigm, you couldn't have a show with your own editorial views like a newspaper could. No. You could still own a newspaper and write whatever you wanted. No. And that's why it was selective enforcement and unconstitutional on so many fronts, not just free speech, but also it was arbitrary, it was selectively enforced, it was discriminatory. So you had to have both sides. They did have talk shows in big cities, and I remember listening to them when I was a kid, driving around listening to WBAP with my dad, and they'd say, we have the Republican and we have the Democrat on with us. Notice Cass Sunstein said that too. They're going to limit the paradigm to the Republicans and Democrats to cement that controlled power structure of the one party that simply shares power with each other. Kind of like Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan, who were good friends, went out and had dinner together, but they at WrestleMania 1, 2, and 3 had big battles in the cage. It wasn't real. Okay, so you can have Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, but you can't say, hey, this whole thing's fake and controlled. We want a true populist constitutional movement at the city and county and state level to take our nation back through the 10th Amendment. No, you can't have that. Sorry. Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. And he said this on WBEZ radio on, quote, internet policy. And he's now the regulation czar. And that's why they're reading from the same sheet of music, the FCC and everyone. Every day they're coming out talking like this. And we have all the quotes. We read them last week. And Watson's doing a big article on it, on free speech, on the Second Amendment, on just everything. This woman is a tyrant. But, of course, she sat at the feet of Cass Sunstein, who says it's a conspiracy theory that vitamin D and sunlight are good for you. See, notice when he gave examples in his white paper of what should be banned. Notice that he gave things that were very broad. Notice that he used very broad things like, if you don't believe in anthropogenic warming, we can put a tax on you or ban you or even arrest you. He always says it in three parts, and that's the message. We're going to start with a tax and control you and monitor you and create an agency of thought police. Then we're going to fine you with taxes, and then we're going to arrest you. See, this is how it's phased in. This is how liberty dies, is in phases. So I now want to go to Paul Watson to break this article down, because when you dovetail this with Sunstein and Kagan, Elena Kagan, and the bill introduced by John McCain and Lieberman that openly says the Pentagon can arrest any citizens. Go read the bill. But, I mean, we had a few weeks ago on about the bill. If you don't believe me and won't go look it up, Judge Napolitano, former federal judge, he said it's worse than that, Alex. No one knows where you go. No one knows why you get arrested. For any reason, for, quote, intelligence purposes, a citizen can be grabbed, secretly stripped by the Pentagon and Justice Department of citizenship and disappear into a black hole. I mean, that's Pol Pot. That's Mao Zedong. That's Hitler. That's Stalin. That's as bad as it gets. And these people really mean business. They really are criminals. It is criminal to be in government and call for these things. Read the Declaration of Independence. Read the Bill of Rights. Read the Constitution. This is criminal. As private citizens, they could call for tyranny and arrest of people for free speech, but you can't sit there in a power position. If you have a mayor saying we should be able to pass a city law and just arrest you and throw you in a dungeon, that's criminal. When you have a police chiefs, saying we ought to get rid of the internet, it's bad. That's criminal. Folks, they're calling to come and take your property, your free speech, your website. And they're all starting to, like a bunch of blackbirds in a tree, flap their wings and caw, like on a fall night when the trees are full of the blackbirds. It's got to be dealt with. They are gearing up for this. They are arrogantly pushing it. Paul Watson, this is shocking article. Obama czar wants mandatory government propaganda on policy websites. Break it down for us.
Yeah, the key aspect of this is that these statements by Sunstein were made before Obama even got elected, just like his January 2008 white paper entitled Conspiracy Theories was written before Obama came into office. Sunstein was selected. He was selected because of these very views on free speech.
And now he's trying to implement them. I mean, that's the big issue here. We know they said all this. Now they're trying it.
Yeah, it's not just some nutcase professor somewhere. This is the head of information technology in the White House.
And his minion is about to be the next Supreme Court justice. I mean, there's not going to be any position that's not a former Goldman Sachs person in this country.
Right. And Sunstein, we know what his agenda is. It's not to introduce, quote, fairness or two sides of the debate, which is a complete, crock within itself. We read at length his January 2008 white paper, which I printed off and, scanned and went through it, and that's how we were able to get an insight into what he's all about. Because in that white paper, he calls for taxing and outright banning, quote, conspiracy theories. And then when you read into what he defines as conspiracy theories, they are beliefs or views that are held by the majority of Americans. The view that Lee Harvey Oswald did not act alone in killing JFK, the view that it was a wider conspiracy, is one shared by, according to a 1998 CBS poll, 90% of American people believe that. And this is what he describes as an opinion that needs to be taxed or banned. He also said that the view that global warming is a deliberate fraud is also, similarly, something that the government needs to censor when, again, the majority of Americans, the latest polls now show, believe that global warming either doesn't exist or if it does, that it's natural. That's the majority view. So they're going directly after free speech. It has nothing to do with fairness.